this is such a treat to be here, man.
Well, thank you for coming, because what we're doing is for all you guys. Jimbo and I have been doing this a long time. Been doing it pretty close to 20 years together. Jimbo was the engineer that engineered all the stiletto hammers and stuff. So, what better partner to have than the guy that knows what goes on in here and what goes on in there, and we're making beautiful music together.
Tell me the story, I know so many people don't realize that you were stiletto, and still are in some ways, because it was you and Jimbo that actually originated that whole design.
Yeah, and thanks for asking me that too, because I know that a lot of people are confused as to what my involvement with stiletto was, but I own stiletto 100%, and anybody and everybody that worked for me was an employee. I tell everybody that stiletto was about the fact that I had this great idea and I brought titanium to the market, but more importantly, and obviously, I was working to become successful, i.e., make money, do all that. Well, that's been done. What Martinez is all about is my legacy. I'm here to try and make the best tools and concepts that I possibly can, and Martinez is about my legacy and taking guys like Jimbo. Jimbo was the original engineer for all my stiletto hammers. And so him coming back over and working with Martinez is just the icing on the cake.
So this is basically heaven, because you're no longer driven by this monetary need and establishing a business. Now you're doing just what you think is right.
Exactly. And once the monetary left, the creativity window just opened up like unbelievable, and it's something that is amazing me, the responses of my end users and the feedback. I sat down and talked with Jimbo, and he said, yeah, I'm in. And I brought back the people who lost their jobs when I was bought. I brought them back.
Oh, wonderful.
And so now they work for me, and I'm just looking so forward to helping as many people as I can with what
it's like a cottage industry then.
Absolutely.
And the timing couldn't have been more perfect, because now with Instagram and the social media kind of tool, you can reach people that you couldn't have reached before.
And that has been the most fascinating thing of this whole venture, because, but before Instagram, I literally had to jump in my truck, visit job sites, beat on doors, go in and try and convince lumber yards and tool stores to carry our products, and this was the next wave, and it was really a hard road to hoe, but it was a job of just absolute passion and love.
You can see it. I can see it. And it just shows.
Yeah, and so the thing is now with Martinez and people understanding my background and who I am and what I've done in the past, it's made it so much easier conveying this message and these designs on Instagram that it's just turned it into a true pleasure.
So I want you to, while we're here, I'm here with Scott Wells too. Thankfully, Scott's on the camera there.
Yeah.
I'm here.
While we're here, we want to be sure that you show us some of the stuff you've already done and accomplished. Like, what are the things you have available on right now? And if you'd be willing to do this, show us some of the things you're working on. And I'd really like to see how you work out the issues and solve problems.
Oh, that would be fun to show everybody, because, at the end of the day, when Jimbo and I walk out of here, a lot of times we sit and we chat about the whole dynamic of it. Him and I don't even believe it's happening. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's unreal.
Because we're able to feed off of each other and take ideas to a level where, some of them are so far out that they don't work. But then again, there might be some little minute detail to that thing that we took so far out that we'll grab and we'll hone it and we'll incorporate it somehow.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
It's there's just so many ideas bouncing around in this room right now, and it's just the two of us doing this. So for two of us to manage sales, manage control of the company, manage manufacturing, manage procurement of parts, and then sit down and design and engineer products that are going to be moving a year or two from now, and making custom hammers for people. I mean, that's a lot of work for 5 people, much less 2.
Yeah.
And we're doing the best we can. So if people are thinking that we're holding out on them because, you know, we're trying to do something that's never been done before,
Or because some specific model or style or something
right, it has
isn't
nothing
available.
to do with that.
It's not, the availability isn't an issue of holding back. It's just there's only 2 of you.
Yeah, there's 2 of us. There's procurement issues. There's sell-through issues where we may estimate that we'll sell this many hammers, and all of a sudden those blow out in the first week, and we're going, where can we get some more? Well, it's going to take 5 weeks to get them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
Okay.
gee, well, we under-ordered. Well, we don't really know how this is all going to play out, but we're doing our best we can to keep it moving and keep it innovative, and we just want to stay on that cutting edge.
Excellent.
We want to be known as the most cutting edge striking tool company in the world.
So Mark, since your products are constantly evolving all the time, what are you currently making?
Well, we're making the first one that we came out with is the M1, okay? And not a lot of people have asked, which has really, really been interesting, and they think the M stands for Martinez,
That's what I
and the
thought.
1 is for the first one that we made. Well, you're way off base, everybody. In World War II, our soldiers fought with an M1 rifle. With having 3 sons active duty in the military, I just thought it was appropriate. Jimbo and I both agreed that keeping a weapons, you know, like our second hammer we came out with is the M4. The
Great.
M4 is what's currently used in all the military right now. That's their
Wow,
rifle,
so that's
okay?
the symbolism for it. I
Right,
like it.
right. And as far as the new sledge head that we're coming out with, let me see that, Jim. Okay, our new sledge head, which everybody's waiting for, we found out the dot is done today, so we should be seeing these here real soon. But the M79 is a grenade launcher. You can see where my heart is.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So
Absolutely.
much so that, you know, and Jimbo agrees with me 100%, you know.
That's what your logo reminds me of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
It has everything to do with
Service.
you know, with service of this country. Not everybody is into the longer throw metal hammer handle. You know, this is for your big industrial. You know, you're wanting to, you know, bust stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
you're wanting to get business. You know, you want to get it done. Whereas the M4 covers all bases. It covers framing. It covers finish. It covers siding. It covers so many things. Now, what I like to do is I like to take the framing head, because I'm not a long handle guy. I like taking the framing head and putting it on the M4. That's my ideal framing hammer, because now you've got a short handle with a whole bunch of punch and power, okay? And you have that flexibility because all Martinez heads interchange with the handle system. And the cool thing about this finish head that we came up with, it has a square-headed design for getting in tight corners and for being able to hit and actually use it as a block, so you don't have to take out a wood block. This thing will block itself. I felt that a square-topped head was way better than going after something else.
Something round.
Something round. This feature has been around since the 20s, okay? Not many companies have adopted it, and that's having that small little tack puller on the end of a claw. A lot of guys have said, well, I'll never use that, but then have come back and told me that they can't live without it, because if you ever need it one time, they said it pays for itself. It's worth its weight in gold. There isn't any striking tool on the market that I know of to where if your grip wears out, you can take your old grip off and put a new one on it. That right there, and this is patent pending, more than likely our patent will be issued next year. But with that technology right there, think about it. You're able to replace the grip and replace a head and you have a brand new hammer. You're starting all again. If you have this handle, you will always be relevant because we will always make tools to fit it. So if you own this handle, you virtually have a hammer for life. Well, some of the subtleties that we have been able to engineer into these tools, I mean, they're subtle, but they're very important. Like take for instance this trim hammer and this framing hammer. As you can see, this nail slot is very exposed. So if you hit into rough lumber and you hit into it, you're going to leave this little half moon where this nail slot is in the lumber, okay? Whereas it's a rough frame, it doesn't hurt any, you're going to leave waffle marks on it anyway. Whereas if you take this finish hammer and you're doing siding, that half moon isn't there. If you do put an imprint, but it still holds a nail the same.
So what about the size of those two from the top? Like the M1 can hold a much larger nail.
Well, the M1 is designed to hold a full duplex 16 penny nail where most other nail sets doesn't fit.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
And the finish hammer is designed to fit the smallest finish nail. The side nail puller is invaluable if ever you've pulled a nail because you have 10 times more leverage with a side nail puller as you do with a claw. Another feature that is really, really important on the M1 is the face is tilted back at approximately 5 degrees. Okay? And the reason for that is nobody pounds a nail straight up and down. It's at an angle. So this is hitting square. Now you might not think that that's a big deal, but 5% will put more of the surface of the face of that hammer on that nail and drive it faster than just a square face. Only our framing hammer has the slanted face because, you know, in framing, you're wanting to get as much on that nail as you possibly can in a production framing environment to get the nails to sink as fast as you can.
Every swing counts.
And whereas with a finish hammer, that's not the case. The M1 weighs within 2 grams of its competitor in titanium. Now, with it weighing within 2 grams, most people pick it up and go, oh, this is way heavier than your other one. But it isn't. It's within 2 grams. What has happened is we have moved the weight from overall and we put all the excess weight just up in the head.
Where you need it.
Right. Because then you have a swing weight.
Exactly.
Whereas before, with the other one, it doesn't have a swing weight. And what we were able to establish on Thor is that this swing weight right here ends up having 1/3 more driving force than my previous designs.
Our first evolution of the new nail puller, we came up with this cross section of the handle. And as you can see, when we jumped up and down on it to test it, it bent. So we came up with a new cross section, and we've got ribs underneath and on top, but all the highest stress and bending is on the outside surfaces. So right in this area here, and right in this area here, we've got added skin strength by adding that section there. So then we put a little bit different load on it and loaded up this area right here. And as you can see, when I was jumping up and down on it like a diving board, it snapped there. So the next evolution of that will now be that we've added more material up here, right in this weak area right here where it's the thinnest section. And so that's our version 3 of evolution, which will be the new Martinez steel nail puller. It's got a side nail puller here. This acts like another side nail puller here, so you can get it started with the cat's paw, then pull it out completely all over the top using this secondary nail puller.
So we'll call for a new SLA and we'll get this one poured out and tested within a week or so. And once we establish that, then we're off to the races and this will be on the market. Here's some of those SLAs of when we started coming out.
What does SLA stand for?
Stereolithography apparatus.
Awesome.
Okay.
What does that mean? 3D printer.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the
SLAs.
All right.
That's the proper term. These are my ladies. This is Teresa
Hi.
and Tina. Okay. They are responsible for putting together all the Martinez hammers. So if you own a Martinez hammer, more than likely one of these ladies built it for you, okay? They built all the stilettos when I owned Stiletto, and I'm really happy to put them back in employment and happy to have them back. They're the joy of my life. They really are. I love these women.
All right, Jim. So I know you guys make a lot of wood-handled hammers also.
Yeah.
This is the machine that you made to drill out these wood handles?
Right.
How's this thing work?
So the challenge is we have a bolt coming down through the top that has to go through a threaded cross dowel here in the middle. So to try to do this freehand and line it up to where this hole will intersect this hole, it's kind of tough.
Forget about it, especially over and over and over.
Right. So what I did was I came up with a device here that has a press that cut off a hammerhead and welded it up inside of here.
Genius.
And so then to set it up, you put a hammerhead up inside, and then this is a press that holds it down in place. Then I have another linear guided cylinder here that runs an air motor. So once it goes down, it starts drilling a hole. But first, you use a hand drill and you drill the cross hole.
Use that little bushing right there to guide you?
Yeah, a little drill guide bushing. Cross hole, and then the top hole that intersects it and lines up.
So you must be one of those hands-on engineers.
Yep. I grew up in a family of engineers from Oregon State, 6th to graduate in my family.
Wow.
And started welding when I was 8 years old and been building stuff ever since.
I had a guy who wanted to send his hammer back, and he wanted some stuff done to it and everything. So he kept calling me and asking me if his hammer had arrived. And I kept going, no, it hasn't arrived. But I had received a package from somebody, and I didn't know who, didn't know it was him, and there was this great big piece of LVL. And I'm going, with his logo on it. And I'm going, what in
kind
the
of
world?
package is that?
I don't know. So I threw it in the corner and wasn't paying any attention to it till one day I looked at Jimbo and I go, no. So Jimbo goes, throw it up here. So Jimbo, he opens it, and when we took the screws out of this plate, lo and behold, his hammer was inside.
He shipped his hammer in an LVL?
He shipped his hammer in an LVL. Now, is that the coolest shit you've ever seen? Come on.
Pretty much the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah,
with a steel plate.
Yeah, and you know, that is what Martinez Tool is all about.
So what is in this cage here?
This is Thor, okay?
Thor.
Okay. It's our hammer testing machine. We've got it torn down right now because we're working on some strike plate and some readers to know what type of energies we're getting.
Oh, to measure
right.
force and
Right.
everything.
Right.
Yeah, so basically what it has, this is a calibrated die spring. And so when it gets compressed, the amount of deflection, you know how much force it takes to compress it.
Oh, all right.
And so then I've got a, kind of like on the old school race cars, you had a little tattletale on your tack. So I've got basically a little metal rod back here, so when this plate strikes and it moves that, it'll stick to wherever it moves, so you can measure how far it actually moved it to calculate how much force the spring had to go. So we can put a variety of different hammers and stuff and change the speeds and strike this plate. There's a fiber optic sensor back here, so it's back in this tube protected when things fly apart, but basically every time this moves, it has a little PLC in there that it counts, and so it'll keep track and keep data points, so we can measure how many times it hits.
Oh, you mean this isn't just to strike once?
No.
Thousands of times.
It's got a rotary arm with a spring-loaded elbow, so every time it hits, it records a count on the PLC, and if it doesn't hit within 3 seconds, it shuts it off because that means something broke.
And how many thousands of times it strikes?
Yeah. So
this is how you test your hammers?
Yeah.
Right. This will strike as many times until either you shut it off or it breaks, and we go up to a variety of different tests, and we were at 17,000 strikes, and at that point then the input shaft on the gearbox broke.
By the calibration of that spring, this is how we determine that the Martinez hits 1/3 harder than a stiletto. Because if you put that PLC at 30 megahertz, a stiletto won't cycle on this. But if you put a Martinez in there, it cycles at 30 megahertz. You have to turn the stiletto to 60 megahertz in order for it to cycle.
When we were testing the M1 handle, after a little over 17,000 hits, that's when the input shaft on the gearbox broke.